Welcome to the 30-minute acrylic portrait, where we paint an alla prima acrylic portrait in about a half an hour. Glad you're here. Looking forward to painting this portrait with you. Today we're going to be painting a portrait of a man in a dark brown hat, or cap, I guess we could call it. And I really love the contrast on this face. Really good sculpting of the form with the direct, bright sunlight and plenty of detail to work from. But in this format here, with the 30-minute acrylic portrait, I'm not trying to paint a Rembrandt. This is just a fast exercise, basically to, help me to be more productive as an artist. And that's what I would hope for you as well. You can try some of these 30-minute acrylic portraits, get faster at your portrait painting, prioritize what's most important within a 30-minute time frame, and maybe you'll end up with a really good portrait study that you can base a full-fledged portrait on, where you would spend more time and do a lot more shading and blending. But let's get started on this. I do have my palette here. I just like to run through the colors so you know what to use if you want to paint this with me or do a portrait of your own based on this quick technique. But I have ivory black, raw umber dark, burnt sienna, raw sienna, ultramarine blue, alizarin crimson, pyrrole red orange, Indian yellow, and titanium white. I also have a little bit of matte medium just to make the paint fluid. And I'm going to be painting with a few different brushes, a couple of flats and a round. And with that, then I'm going to just ask a quick blessing on this portrait and we'll get started. So Father, I ask a blessing on this painting here. Help me to be able to do this quickly and effectively within the 30-minute time frame, to really be able to capture the personality and the likeness and the essence of this man here. Lord, I pray that you would bless the students watching, draw them close to you, and enable them to be able to paint portraits they can be proud of. I pray that you'd help them to learn some skills and techniques here during this class. I ask that in Jesus' name, amen. All right, and with that, I'm going to set my timer. So this shows that this is done live alla prima. I have that set for 30 minutes, and away we go. So the first step then is to block in the form of this man, block in the composition. And we're going to take some raw umber dark for that, a little bit of ultramarine blue, and let's just put a little bit of ivory black on the palette. That paint I had was getting just a bit dry. All right, we'll add a little bit of ivory black, and then we'll mix this with some matte medium just to make it fluid, a little bit of ultramarine blue as well. And let's do it. Let's just block this in really quick. So we're going to get the overall sense of the composition. We want to see the visual weight where it should be at. So we have the edge of his hat gets pretty close to touching, and let's just move this back so I make sure I have that composition accurate. It's not touching quite that close. All right, and then the hat actually goes off screen or off the picture plane a little bit. Comes down like this, and then it goes pretty close to the edge. So we want to block that in quick. Get a couple of angles here for the top of the hat. I should say is about right there, actually. That was probably would refer more to the shadow. All right, we get the bottom of the hat blocked in. And then we want to get the weight of his face and his jawline in here, cheekbone area. Chin comes down pretty low. And I think also I have to keep in mind that my picture plane is just a little bit larger, so I'm going to have a little more of his neck showing, I believe. We're going to get a little bit of the jawline in there. And then we get the bottom part of his clothing. We'll just bring that chin down a little bit further. And then we have the neck opening right here. And then the actual neck there. And I want to make sure I have enough width on this hat too. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is block in some of the shadows. I'm going to use a smaller flat brush, and I'm going to take some raw umber dark, mix with a little titanium white to make it more opaque, and a bit of raw sienna. A little bit of alizarin crimson and ivory black, and then some ultramarine blue just so it's not too reddish or orangish. That just neutralizes it using the complementary color. A little bit more titanium white. I really do want that to be fairly opaque, and just a bit more burnt sienna to warm that up. And then I'm just going to block this in. Yeah, I could use just a little more ultramarine blue and titanium white. It looks pretty warm compared to this blue here. Okay, so we're just blocking in the shadow shapes. And with that, we'll kind of get the form of his nose. Got the lips right here. We're going to block that in. So I just want something that I can use to not only block in the positions of these facial features, but also fill in the shadows as well relatively quickly. Oops. Just trying to get that timer position straight. Okay, now we want to block in the eyebrow and the shadows. So it's not just the color of the eyebrows we're interested in the entire shape of the skull socket. And that is super, super important. So we want to get in the eye here, and it's going to have a pretty decisive triangular shape. The lips are pretty strong. And we're going to use the same color to block in the initial color for the hat. I might hit it with another layer if I have time. We're just going to use this pretty quick to do that. Actually, I'm going to switch to this other brush, this larger brush. And that'll cover the distance a little faster. All right. Now he has a little interesting earring there. It's kind of one of those loops that expands the earlobe a bit. So if I have time, I'll put that in. That's one of those important details you like to put in a person's face. Just spreading this paint out using some aggressive brush strokes at first to really push it into the weave of the canvas board, and then smoothing it out on top. Now let's get the shadow in here under his chin that corresponds with the neck. And these shapes of these shadows are very, very important. That's what creates a sense of depth and accuracy in a portrait. Well, we'll do as much as we can within this time frame here. Right now I'm just kind of doing a chiaroscuro of his face. And the next thing we'll do then is we'll put in the lighter values. So I'm just going to rinse this brush off really well. Got my towel here. It's always good to have a towel nearby where you can wipe off your brush. I have a fellow at church who gives me used towels when they're done with them, and I love them. They're just so good for wiping the water off your brush after you're done rinsing with it. And really, I'm thankful for that gentleman that supplies me with the towels. And his wife, of course, because she's the one who has facilitated the towels being in their home and kept them so nice. Okay, so now I just had to do that last little spot. I have to rinse one more time. Now let's do the highlights, and we're going to take some titanium white, scoop that, really just literally scoop it onto the palette with some raw sienna and burnt sienna. It tends to make a pretty nice skin tone color if you're painting more opaquely, although I do recommend the glazing technique. That's going to give you a better effect. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, if you struggle with mixing skin tones at all, be sure to grab my free PDF guide on how to mix muddy skin tones. You can get that right in the link of the description of this video and also in the comments section. So check that out. It's a free gift to you. It'll help you. It's a nice PDF file. You can print it off, download it, and it'll be a great reference for how to mix, or I should say how to overcome muddy skin tones, how to fix, not how to mix muddy skin tones. Nobody wants to mix muddy skin tones. How to fix muddy skin tones. So go ahead and check that out, and you'll see that in the description of the video. Yeah, it's sometimes multitasking gets the better of me sometimes. Okay, so I added just a bit of alizarin crimson to this because the skin tones needed a little more pink. And with that, we're going to add this right to the area. So we're going to fill in this whole section with that. And that'll be the base of all of our skin tones. Again, just block that in. And if it gets into the shadow shapes a little, that's okay. We'll just, we'll refine them. But I'm just trying to do that as quickly as I can here. Okay, we'll work that into even the lip area. Obviously he has a little mustache, but we got to get these skin tones locked in first. Here it's a little bit more yellowish on his neck, which makes sense because there's more blood vessels in that area. So we'll just use a slightly different color on the neck. And a little bit of the ear. Okay. Now we'll want to go in with the smaller flat brush. Start bridging some of these tones together. So we'll go back to that darker color, which I probably should have mixed more of, but that's okay. Raw umber dark, titanium white, a little bit of alizarin crimson, ultramarine blue. And we're just going to have something a little bit warmer with some burnt sienna. So we mix that into these existing colors that we've got. So we have kind of something to bridge the gap between the two of them. Add a little bit of alizarin crimson to warm that up. And then we're just going to blend these two together a little bit. Just on the corner of the nose, a little bit right up here. Do want to get a little bit of a wrinkle going on that vertical forehead furrow. Is very important to capture his expression. Get those shapes that are being created by that. We get a little bit of the cheek color here, the nose, and let's just grab a little bit of raw umber dark, burnt sienna, and alizarin crimson. And let's just block in that nostril shape a little bit more. And now let's work in some kind of grayish tones for his beard, his whiskers. So we take some of this darker color, put it into the lighter skin tone, and that just makes a really nice kind of beard color we can use. And we'll try to get the texture of that beard in there as much as we can. So we have a little bit of the mustache. We want to get that in there. Darker on the corners. And then we let it kind of taper along the jawline. and add a little bit of the alizarin crimson tint, and we blend that up into the skin tones of his face here. And we move back into the grayer tint, try to get a nice optical mix. Wipe off my brush, grab some raw umber dark, a little bit of burnt sienna, work it into the alizarin crimson, and then we just put in some darker mustache tones and that philtrum, little area above the lip, darker shadows right to the left of his nose, sculpt in the form of the eye really quick and the eyebrow. Okay, and let's do the other eye. I will just sculpt in that form, and I'm going to need to go to my round brush. So let's find that really quick. And we're just going to sculpt this in. We should add just a little bit of alizarin crimson to it. It looks better when it's a little bit warmer in tone. But just to get that form of the eye in there. A little bit of the shape of the eyebrow. And then we just use color. We're not going to have time to do the individual eyebrow hairs. So we just use a kind of a darker skin tone color to suggest the eyebrow hairs above his eye. And that's a great way to do it rather than trying to paint every individual hair. In fact, even in your portraits that take a little more time, I'd still recommend doing it that way. It really, really helps increase the realism. Now let's just add some darker tones to the beard on that side. A little bit of ultramarine blue just to make that a little darker. That can come out a little more on that side. Show more of the eyebrow. And then this hat on that far left side. All right, and then we got to get this nice shadow underneath his cap. It has a little thickness to it. So we're just going to get that thickness in there. And then we use some raw sienna, burnt sienna, a little bit of alizarin crimson, and raw umber dark, a little more alizarin crimson. We're just going to create a little bit of a shadow color underneath. So that we're going to block in right here. So that can follow the underside of the hat. Just going to rest my hand above here because the paint's a little bit wet. And we get some more shadow shape there. Now let's just darken the shadow a little bit more. Thicken that up just a bit. Maybe blend the two together. There we go. Let's put a little bit of a darker color here on the left side of the hat just to show the way the light plays on the form of his head. And we can just get in a few little striations on the cap. All right, now let's get those wrinkles under his eyes, these concentric eyelid folds. So we're just going to want to keep that color pretty simple, but we're going to move into a slightly warmer color as well. All right, and then a little bit of the flesh tone color. Get that going again. Titanium white, a little bit of raw sienna, alizarin crimson, Indian yellow, and burnt sienna, and a bit of pyro red orange. And then we'll blend this into the existing color and just get some additional tones. Now we can Add a couple of additional tones for the nose. A little more burnt sienna, alizarin crimson. And we just want to, again, warm up a couple of spots on the face. This nasolabial fold. Personally, I'd like to see that move over just a little bit more to the right. Let's see if we can sculpt that over. Just move it a little more to the right. I think that'll be more accurate. All right, and then let's get the color for the lips: titanium white, pyrrole red orange, alizarin crimson, and we're just gonna block in that shape for his lips and the color. So that's the lower part of the lip. Upper part will need a little Romber dark and alizarin crimson for that. Block that in right there. And get in some of these darker shadows as well. Okay, and then we'll just turn the form a little bit on this bottom part of that area below the lip that's projecting out. Touch up the eye a little bit. Now let's get a little bit of shading on his neck. So we're going to look for this more grayish color over here. I'm going to block that in. And we'll blend that into this side here. We got to add a little Romber dark to that. Bit of ultramarine blue. Yeah, we need some more Romber, or ivory black rather. And a little bit of Indian yellow. There, we just want to match that existing color. Wipe off my brush so I can blend into this a little bit. And we're going to go into these lighter colors over here, kind of show a little bit of that 5 o'clock shadow there. Just add a little bit of Indian yellow to this color to give it a slightly more greenish tint. A little bit of titanium white. All right, we grab some of this pinkish tint for his ears. We just block that in right there. And we'll come on top with a little bit of a highlight color, like that. And now I'll switch to my small flat brush. And I want to do a few highlights on his face. Titanium white, Indian yellow, pyrrole red orange. Oh, isn't that gorgeous? Look at that. That's so bold. I'm going to have to tone it down a little bit. Okay, a little bit of Indian yellow, and we'll just soften that up. But it needs to be light enough in value. And we don't want the color too chromatically intense. So a little more titanium white. Okay, that's good. Might have to get a little bit darker in value. All right, this is good. Now we're just gonna block this in on his cheeks and just get a few choice highlights there. Couple of little highlights on the nose as well. And we'll just move this along. Couple little choice highlights on the forehead. Just try to get in those stronger shapes of the wrinkles. And then we're going to add a little titanium white to this. Again, bit more Indian yellow. You just want to get a nice highlight right here on the corner by his eyebrows and his upper eye area. That can suggest the eyebrows a little bit more too. All right, I'll make sure I finish this area here, get that nice reddish color in there. And let's get a couple more highlights right here on the cheek. And then I'd like have a nice reddish tint right here along the edge of his nasolabial fold. Add a little bit of raw sienna to this and titanium white. Just kind of blend this all together a little bit more. Get a couple warmer skin tones on that area underneath his nasolabial fold and right by his mustache area. Lighten up the ear a little bit. A little bit of a highlight on his neck. Just kind of tie these colors together, get a little bit of that reddish color in there. And add a little bit of pyro red orange. Oh, I love that color. It's like cad red light, but without the toxicity, and it just has a certain vibrancy to it that I like. Just want to add a little bit of a highlight to the lips. Yep, just a little bit of a highlight to the lips. Don't want to overdo it. Okay. Now let's do the blue of his shirt. We have just a few minutes left. We'll take some ultramarine blue, titanium white, and let's see, my paint's dried up. I'm gonna have to add a little bit of phthalo blue here. This wood heat, I keep talking about that, but my paint just dries up so fast. But let's add a little bit of that, the titanium white, ultramarine blue, a little bit of raw umber dark, just so it's not too chromatically intense, and a touch of alizarin crimson, just to balance out the greenishness of the raw umber dark. Yeah, let's take a little more ultramarine blue to that. All right, we'll just put this in right here. Get a nice intense color. Just like a t-shirt, or actually it's a bluish colored shirt, and it's in shadow. So that's what we're trying to portray here. Then it gets just a little bit lighter right here. So take a little bit of phthalo blue, titanium white, mix that right in, lighten that up. So it does get a little bit lighter. And then in fact, right here, it's substantially lighter. So titanium white, a little bit of phthalo blue, and we'll put this on right there. A little more phthalo blue. There we go. Just want to make it light enough. It actually should be lighter than his flesh tones. And let's just get this shadow here might be a little bit darker. Put in a couple little highlights there. I want to give that a little bit of a stronger edge, this shadow right here. I have to imagine what it looks like because I can't really see it in the reference photo because it's cropped off. We'll just imagine what it might look like. Okay. Now with the time I have left, I'll see if I can just do a little more work on his eye. Umber dark, ivory black, alizarin crimson. Just see if I can get a little bit of detail right in there. Get the nose a little stronger. Strengthen some of the shadows a bit more. Oh, and that little earring. Can I put that in? With just a little highlight on it. Ivory black. Just get that blocked in a little better. There it is. And just a little bit of shadow under the beard. Salt and pepper look. Just want to strengthen that a little bit more. Couple little dabs right there. All right, that's it. So we're going to call this done. Yeah, I like how this one turned out. Okay. Yeah, so you can see basically the structure of the face. I like it, you know, because he had a really angular face, a lot of kind of opposing angles with the nose and the nasolabial fold and the eyes, and then that with the sunlight created a really nice sculpted form, which you know, allowed me to get a lot of nice sharp angles right away. So obviously there's some things I'd like to resolve if I had a little more time, but for 30 minutes overall I'm pretty happy with this. So yeah, I think it's something you might enjoy doing as well. All right, so there you have it, our 30-minute acrylic portrait here of the man with the dark brown cap. And hope you enjoyed this today. Be sure to like this video, subscribe, all that good stuff. Check out my channel, or I should say check out my free guide, Fix Muddy Skin Tones in your acrylic portrait. And you can get that by clicking the link here at the bottom of this video description. Actually, I think I'll have it at the top of the video description, and also in the top comment as well. So Fix Muddy Skin Tones in your acrylic portrait, a free PDF guide. You can download that just to say thank you for watching this video today. So again, thanks for your time. Thanks for watching this. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think of this portrait. If you're interested in trying out a portrait like this yourself, let me know. I'd love to cheer you on, give you some tips. But again, thank you so much for watching the 30-minute acrylic portrait. God bless, and we'll see you in the next video soon.